Okay, sit yourself onto your lift and come into a good cross-legged position. Take a little wiggle about. Just make sure that your feet, that you're sitting. Even I can't think of the word then. Even though just make sure that you're sitting evenly. Just hold onto your knees and lift the chest. Elevating the chest upwards and drawing the shoulders downwards is a really good way of just instantly bringing attention into the body, just waking up the chest a little. Just consciously fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. Let go of your knees and reach behind you. Keep the arms straight and squeeze an imaginary box of air so that the shoulder blades gather together. Just keep your eyes open, looking at something that doesn't move. Squeezing that imaginary box of air, keeping your eyes still in the sockets. Fill in the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying them from the top to the bottom. Just consciously acknowledging balance of the body on the seat bones. Lifting the chest so that you can sit on the front edge of the seat bones. Keep the shoulder blades gathering together and then reach for your knees. Pull against the knees so that you can elevate the heart area. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just feel how just those simple stretches brings a wash of energy into the chest, into the muscles around the arms and the forearms. A little inundation of consciousness. Release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, pressing the palms really firmly together, lengthening from the armpits into the elbows, lengthening the elbows in towards each other so that the heels of the hands are firm. Lengthen from the heels of the hands to the fingertips. And then allow your eyes to gently close. Focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. If there's a reason why you shouldn't interrupt your normal breath, then just continue to breathe from the bottom of the lungs to the top, top of the lungs to the bottom. If not, if you're okay with altering the pattern of your breath a little, then I want you to, rather than breathe from the bottom of the lungs to the top, I want you to breathe from the perineum to the collarbone with the in-breath. So it's the same direction of action, and from the out-breath, the collarbone down to the perineum. So it's the same direction of action, just a little deeper. If at any stage that breath makes you feel anything other than energized, as in anxious or tension around the chest, then just go back to normal breathing. But bring in the breath from the perineum, the area at the bottom of the spine between the legs. The perineum to the collarbone with the in-breath, the collarbone to the perineum with the out-breath, the apanic breath. So the apanic breath brings deep energy into the body. The apanic breath inundates the body with positive energy. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Continue the apanic breath if you're doing that. And just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. And with an exhalation, release the backs of your hands down to your knees. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then raise your head. Allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just stretch your legs out and just make sure that the backs of your thighs aren't trapped on the lift that you're sitting on. So just walk the legs away so that you're still sitting on the lift a little, but you're or not just a little, you're still sitting on the lift, but you have got the backs of your legs free. Bring your feet hip width apart. Push your feet really firmly into the floor. Hold, not like a grip like with the hands, just hold lightly with the hands and just feel that that is sufficient. Tighten the kneecaps. Keep the apanic breath moving if you're doing that. And then lift the breath from the perineum to the collarbone to the perineum, and activate the kneecaps and the tops of the thighs. Press the tops of the thighs down into the floor. Feel that you can roll onto the front edge of the seat bones. When you're sitting on a lift, it's perhaps a little easier to do that, and that you can lift up into the chest. So activating the apanic breath from the perineum to the collarbone, with the in-breath and with the out-breath from the collarbone down to the perineum. release the belt for a moment, just cross the ends of the belt over so it stays in place. Get the tip of your index finger and then press it into the top of the thigh. So right into the top of the thigh. We're not trying to create a bruise or anything. In fact, you might have to soften your legs in order to really effectively work through the muscle. But I want you to just create a little template of action. So press into the top of the thighs, then take the fingers away and just feel, does that area become more conscious? So at the front of the thigh, just right at the top of the thigh, just before the hips, just give yourself a little conscious template of action. And then go back to the belt. And this time, really activate the tops of the thighs where those little action buttons were. Press the top of the thigh through to the back of the thigh. Turn those dots inwards a little so that the fronts of the thighs turn inwards, the backs of the thighs broaden outwards, maintaining the apanic breath. Observe as you extend how you inundate the body with consciousness, with the recognition of where you are in 3 dimensions, of consciousness, of energy, just filling the body with your awareness. Using that apanic breath. If there's no problems with your back, then just come forwards a little. But hinging entirely at the hips, keeping the back straight, keeping those action buttons on the tops of the thighs, pressing down towards the backs of the thighs. Lifting up into the chest as you come forwards, activating the tops of the thighs, those little action buttons. You can reach the feet and do. We're not coming all the way forwards, but we're just activating the legs so that we can activate the spine, so that the forward bend comes with a straight back. Maintaining the apanic breath. And then gently release and come back into cross legs. And just go back to the apanic breath if you're doing it, or just breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top, and vice versa with the out breath if you're not. Just listen to the breath. So you can stay in cross legs if you're not doing the dog down, or you can go into supta padangusthasana if you prefer. Otherwise, come down onto your knees, have your hands as wide apart as the mat, really spread the palms. Turn your toes under, have your feet as wide apart as the mat, and then be right up on the tip toes. Bend your knees, lift the tailbone up to the ceiling. Activate the apanic breath if you can, and then with an exhalation, with an apanic exhalation, straighten the legs. Activate that action button. Turn the action button, the buttons inwards, so that the thighs rotate inwards at the front, outwards at the back. Activate that dot on the thigh, pressing through to the backs of the thighs. maintaining the apanic breath. So you'll discover that the out breath becomes a really good place for activation. The in-breath is a good place for observation, the out-breath for activation. Just step your feet forwards, come up into standing position, and then get some blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. Bring your feet as wide apart as the mat. Maintaining the apanic breath if you can. And we're going to come forwards on an out breath. So activate the legs, activate those little action buttons at the tops of the thighs. Just press your finger into the tops of the thighs again, just to reactivate that feeling. Have your hands on your hips, wing the elbows towards each other. And wherever your next exhalation comes, come forwards into uttanasana. Use the apanic out breath, or just your normal out breath, to really activate the legs, activate the spine and the arms. So you should be looking forwards, keeping the head directly extending away from the spine. So chances are you can't see the body. So feel the body in 3 dimensions. If you can go down lower, then do. But feel the body in 3 dimensions. Feel the body inundated with consciousness. See the body through the feeling of the body. Piece the body together like a jigsaw of consciousness. Keep those action buttons pressing through to the backs of the thighs. See the body in 3 dimensions through the feeling of the limbs. If you can go into dog down, then do it. If you can't, or if you don't want to, then stay in uttanasana, in half uttanasana. Otherwise, walk your hands forwards. Have your hands about shoulder width this time. Maybe slightly wider. Step back. Have the feet hip width apart. And then just go back into the breath. Activating that dot at the top of the thigh, the action button as I'm calling it, really pressing it through to the backs of the thighs, turning them inwards. See the body in 3 dimensions, especially the parts of the body that the eyes can't see. Okay, and then just step your feet forwards. If you're in dog down, just come up into standing from Uttanasana if you're in Uttanasana. And then come into Tadasana. Just maintaining your apanic breath if you can. Just reset those little buttons at the tops of the thighs. Just press into them just to leave that little template, just like tap on the top of the legs a little. Turn the buttons inwards, turn the thighs inwards, tuck the tailbone in. Maintain the apanic breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide. And on an out breath, step or jump the feet apart, nice and wide with the legs. Just bring your hands onto your hips. Turn your left toes in and the right leg and foot all the way out. Just being mindful of your foot positioning, just lining this heel up with the instep of the back foot. Just do a few apanic breaths or normal breaths, and then go back to those buttons. Turn them outwards. Turn them from the big toe side to the little toe side, especially this front leg. On an out breath, wherever that occurs, go down into trikonasana. Activating those thigh buttons, turning them outwards. Activating that back leg really firmly to distribute the weight between the legs. Maintain the apanic breath if you can. The more you activate those dots at the tops of the legs, the more you can extend into the spine. Come back to the centre and then swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, left leg and foot all the way out. Again, just being mindful of the foot placement, turning those action buttons outwards, especially of the left leg, the front leg. Wherever your out breath comes, come over to the side. So use your in-breath to observe. Use your out-breath to activate. Just feel the body in 3 dimensions. Inundating the physical body with a consciousness and awareness. And out breath, coming back to the center. Bring the feet parallel and then step or jump the feet back together. Just coming back to Tadasana. Listen to the breath. Activating your apanic breath if you can, or just being conscious of the breath if you are just breathing normally. We're going to bring our feet hip width apart. You might need a belt for this, so you might need to just hook the belt underneath the big toes like this. And then we're going to come forwards into padangusthasana. So the belt around the big toes if you can't reach your toes. And then as you come forwards, hinging at the hips. And then you just come forwards and tip, as far as you can. Keeping the legs straight, keeping the back straight. So if you don't need the belt, if you know you can reach your toes, then just have your hands on your hips. Just breathe in apanically if you can. On an out breath, raise your arms. If you've got the belt, just stay with the belt in Tadasana. Just stay standing with the arms on the belt. If you've got a bad back, often it's better to come forwards with your hands on your hips and then you hinge forwards. Otherwise, you're going to come forwards with your arms straight, hinging at the hips, coming forwards on an apanic breath if you can. Keeping the front chest lifted, keeping the back straight, hinging entirely at the hips, and then bring the index finger and the middle finger underneath the big toe. And wrap the thumb around the inside of the big toe. So do half uttanasana if that is a strain on your back, so you should never strain your back. Go back to your apanic breath. Activate those action buttons with the out breath. Observe the pose with the in breath. Activate the spine, extending away from the hips with the out breath. Have a tug of war with your big toes. Pull on your big toes, and if you can bend your elbows out to the side, drawing the body into that space between the legs. If there's a reason why you shouldn't bring your heart lower than your head or heart lower than the rest of the body, then just stay in the halfway position. Maintaining the apanic breath, inundating the body with positive energy from the breath, from the consciousness of sensation. Feel the pose from the skin into the flesh, into the muscles. Activate those action buttons. And then release your hands from your feet. Just come into half uttanasana, extending the chin and the chest away. So stay in half uttanasana if you're not doing dog down. Otherwise, walk your hands away, bend your knees if you need to come into the pose, and then have your hands hip width apart, have your feet have your hands shoulder width apart, your feet hip width apart. And then go back into your apanic breath. Remembering, if you're not interrupting your normal breath, then just continue to breathe from the bottom of the lungs to the top, top of the lungs to the bottom. Activate those action buttons. Feel the body in 3 dimensions through the feeling of the pose. Observe where there are areas of dullness and seek to draw consciousness into them. And then come down onto your knees. Just sit back on your heels. Observe your energy. Observe the feeling of the skin from the face to the feet. Maintain the apanic breath if you are doing that. Just spending time to acknowledge the cleansing action of the out breath, the end of the out breath. Bring your knees apart a little and then come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Again, filling the body with consciousness. You can do supta baddha konasana if this doesn't feel right for you. Keep the arms activated. Keep them straight, keep the forearms off the floor, keep the palms down. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then push yourself up into a seated position, just sitting back on your heels for a moment, just observing the energy of the body. And then just sit yourself in cross legs. So sit on a lift if you need to. In fact, let's all sit on a cushion. So sit on a lift, so sit on some blocks, or if you've got a cushion, then sit on there, come into cross legs. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Just stretch your legs out in front and then bring the legs wide apart. And then get your hand into the back of the right knee, point the toes, and then bring the top of the foot down onto the floor so that the heel is in line with the belly button, in line with the spine. And then do the same with the other foot. Point in the toes and then bringing the heels in line with each other. At this stage, you might have to shuffle off your lift a little and bring the knees down. So the knees need to be down. If you can't get the knees down, sit a little bit higher. So just perch on the edge of the lift, and then hold onto your knees. So you can stay like this, or if you want to take the pose a little further, you can post the toes of the front foot through the calf and the thigh, and then reach through, get hold of the big toe, and then pull the big toe through the calf and the thigh. So just stay, so that big toe will stay bound, toes will stay bound. It's a nice way of warming your toes up actually. Hold on to your knees and lift the chest up to the ceiling. Draw your chin forwards and down to make contact with the chest. Jalandhara bandha. Lift mula bandha, lift the anal sphincter up towards the diaphragm region. And then just continue with the apanic breath. Fill in the body with energy. If you're not doing the apanic breath, just normal breaths, but feel how you fill the body with energy with every in-breath. Acknowledging the cleansing action of the out-breath. Keep the breath soft. Don't push it too hard. Don't push it hard at all. Keep the breath gentle. Acknowledge that at the end of the breath and at the beginning of the breath there is a natural moment of silence. If there's any reason why you shouldn't hold your breath, then just don't dwell on that moment of silence, just normal breathing. If there's no problems with just holding the breath gently, just elongate that period at the end of the breath, at the end of the in-breath, at the end of the out-breath of silence, just elongate it for a second or two. So holding the in-breath for a moment, just keeping it lightly, never a grip. Holding the end of the out-breath, just very briefly, no grip. Okay, with an out breath, just a normal out breath, release Mula Bandha, release Jalandhara Bandha, and then gently release the legs from siddhasana, stretching the legs away. Just lengthen the legs away. If you've got a belt handy, just pull a belt around the feet. Come onto the front edge of the seat bones. Extend the spine up to the ceiling. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Activating those action buttons, lengthening from the hips into the heels. And then as long as there's no problem with your back, if there is, just stay at that first stage, just gently come forwards. Just forwards a little bit at a time, keeping the back dead straight. Reaching forwards if you can. Maintaining the apanic breath if you're doing that. So your feet can be hip width apart. So classically they're together, but it gives you more space to have the feet apart. So as you come forwards, keep the head lifted. And then come back to the centre, just come into cross legs. Have your hands on your knees, lift up into your chest. Broadening the chest, drawing your shoulders away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side. And then come back to the centre, hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, take a deep inhalation. And with the exhalation, turn to the left. Just feel how perhaps the body is full of consciousness, from the toes to the top of the head. Come back to the centre and come down to the floor into supta padangusthasana. Come down onto your back, soles of the feet together, knees apart. Interlock the fingers and turn the palms all the way out. And then just, you can maintain that apanic breath for a little longer, or if the body feels full of consciousness, then just normal breathing. So use supports for your hips or your shoulders if you need it. Blanket a folded blanket underneath your hands, or some blocks underneath your hands, or some blocks on the outsides of the thighs. Just maintaining that palmic breath if you can, acknowledging how the sound of the breath is similar to the sound of the waves coming into the beach and going back into the water. Just release your arms, just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Draw your knees towards each other, have the knees together, the feet apart. If you've got a blanket handy, just bring the blanket underneath your head, underneath the back of your neck, and then stretch your legs out, just come up onto your elbows, make sure you're in a really good straight line right down the centre of your mat. And then just rest into the mat, let the body release. And hook the muscles of the arms and the legs so that the body becomes heavy on the floor. But out of that heaviness, just normal breathing now. Out of that heaviness, maybe you acknowledge a feeling of energetic lightness. Perhaps the toes feel light and tingly, the feet. Observe the energy radiating from the bones and into the muscles and the organs and the flesh and the skin. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of energetic lightness evenly down into the toes, into the fingers and up into the top of the head. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side. Stretch out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift with the hands in the masti. Draw your breath this time down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the lightness of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning. Good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses and the breath work bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Connecting the tip of the index finger with the thumb, just a gesture of wisdom and peacefulness that you can carry into your day. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel like you have drenched the body with energy, giving yourself lots of good, positive energy to put into your day. Thank you very much for joining me.